So here is one of the three Mouseketeers. So I've had these three brother sibling mice for 7 or 8 months now. And in mice years, they've been living here for 15 years actually. And that's because mice live on average about 2 to 3 years. So they are about 18, 19 months old now. So they are middle-aged mice actually now. So they've been here the equivalent of 15 years in mice years. A very long time actually. So they are middle-aged mice and they're reasonably active, and they live life on fast forward really. 2 to 3 years, is the equivalent of 70 years really for mice, because they live fast forward sort of lifestyle. They make up to 2,500 choices per hour in a labyrinth, and also they can breed at very rapid rates too, as well as being very quick to maneuver, climb, and make multiple decisions. Lots of swift decisions in short times. So they can breed up to 3 to 12 every 3 weeks. So they breed in prolific ways, really. They live life on fast forward, 70 years, but all in 3 years. So it's there he is having a good gnaw at the vegetables. One of the three brother Mouseketeers. And they live a fairly active lifestyle. They're up for about 4 hours of the day. Just like dogs, mice will sleep on average about 16 hours per day. They spend about an hour or two being reasonably active, having a run around, climbing up frames, going round on the wheel. That's what they'd be doing out in the wild. In the meadows, they'd be running several miles a day. So they run great long distances. One of them in particular, they're all different. One of them's more active than the other, and one of them's a bit slow. He's always up late out of the egg box, and they all have different temperaments. One's a bit slower, one's a bit hyperactive, but they're all reasonably active for a couple of hours. They eat together, they wash together, and they rest and sleep in the egg box together, actually, as well. So they're very sociable, affectionate creatures. They will share a lot of affection, and especially these three have been brought up from the same litter. And sadly, they can't meet other mice, because male mice tend to be quite territorial, unless they're brought up together, like these three male mice were. And of course, they can't meet other female mice unless they're neutered, perhaps, to stop the overbreeding in captivity. So there he is having his lunch. Just gotten up, had a good run around for an hour or so as his exercise session, having a bit of a breakfast after he's had his run around. There's his brother, trying to climb up something. And the other one, because there's three of them, they all came from the Animal Rescue Centre. And the third one is still in his egg box. He always gets up an hour late for work. He's always been a bit slow, but he always joins the brothers later. So there are three of them. But first of all, this one gets out early. He's always the early bird, and then the other one will join him, and the third one. So they all have their different sort of personalities and different sort of attitudes and that. He loves having a good munch on the vegetables, and they love their broccoli and cauliflower, cabbage, carrots. They'll eat tomatoes occasionally, because they love breadcrumbs and cheese, but they eat too much of the breadcrumbs. I'm trying to get them back onto a vegetable diet, really. So they eat a fairly balanced diet, and they're reasonably active too, really. And it's nice that the three of them have each other, really, the brothers. There's the other one, having a over the bridge he goes, through the tunnel. They haven't discovered the new egg box on top with the food in there yet, so probably they wait for the third one actually before they go off on their adventures, really. The three of them like to go off together, so then they sort of chase each other around and squabble over big bits of food, and they have their arguments like all brothers would. But imagine three brothers being locked in a room together for 15 years. They're bound to be a bit eccentric, aren't they? It's not an ideal circumstance. It's a bit strange. And yes, it's just trying to make the most of a difficult situation for them, really. Just trying to give them a little happiness, since they're separated from their mouse brethren, really, and they're not able to be out in the wilderness, in the meadows, where field mice belong, of course. But I guess because of the overbreeding, there's just lots of small rodents that have to be looked after, and because they were bred as domestic fancy mice, so I'm not sure that they would be able to survive that well if they were released out in the wild, really. But they live a reasonably happy lifestyle, sort of living together, and at least the three of them do have each other, and they're affectionate with each other as well. They all seem to have disappeared suddenly, though, so I'll leave it for now and say goodbye.